They still need to pay there some extra.
Oh, yeah. HR rules.
Yeah. Oh, no, she's big flower rules. Kelly's in. Kelly's in.
My team is better.
Kelly's in fast, but those two are. We need to.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll get started. All right, welcome everybody to the Ramsey County Board Workshop. Today's workshop will be a presentation on the Human Resources Department transformation, a look back and a look forward. A courtesy reminder that this board workshop is recorded and it is live streamed on a Zoom webinar. There will be no votes taken during this workshop. Let's start with introduction of commissioners and presenters around the table and then the rest of the room. I will start with me, Commissioner Tara Jevon Singh, District 1.
Hello, Mary Jo McGuire, Commissioner District 2.
Garrison McMurtry, Commissioner, District 3.
Patience Ferguson, Chief HR Officer.
Michael Fisher from Fisher Consulting.
Lynn Becker, County Manager.
Lena Moran, Commissioner, District 4.
Thomas Farron, I'm the Chief Clerk Student.
Miranda Harrison, Deputy Director, Division Director of Labor Relations.
Kristen Schultz, HR Deputy Director, Total Rewards. Veronica Jackson, Regional Health Equity Administrator.
Kathy Murphy, Policy Aid, Commissioner. Andrew Kempy, HR Benefits Manager. Arzu Ansari, Revenue Development Supervisor.
Jessica Montgomery, Police and Accommodations Manager.
And Bonnie, HR Consultant.
Terry Cunningham, HR Operations Head.
Dave Ray's Town Services HR Manager.
Andrew Greenlee, Deputy Chief of Staff.
Dear Advocate Deputy County Manager, Commonwealth Services.
Karen Francois, Deputy County Manager, Community Services and Supports.
Excellent. Today's workshop will provide an overview and status update of the Ramsey County Human Resources Department. We'll hear about where the department has been, what has been learned in the first 8 months, and a review of the HR roadmap of priorities. I will now hand it off to our presenters to kick off the workshop.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Jevon Singh. My name is Patience Ferguson, and I just want to say it is a delight to have an opportunity to share what we've been doing in the HR function and to have some conversation. And so what I'd like to do, first of all, is just talk a little bit about well, I will continue to talk. I will talk a little bit about, I thought it would be helpful to just talk a little bit about why I even decided to join this wonderful county called Ramsey County. And as many of you know, I've worked in the public sector and the nonprofit sector for many, many years. I started my career working for an organization called Map for Nonprofits. And in that organization, what I really appreciated was the opportunity to work with so many executive directors in the community, as well as with corporations, in really trying to help support the work of the community. Most recently, I worked for organizations such as the YWCA in Minneapolis, where I headed HR. I also worked for almost 10 years at the city of Minneapolis, where I was the chief HR officer. And I also worked at the Federal Reserve Bank, where I was also head of human resources. But what drew me here was that I really, after leaving the city of Minneapolis and joining the Federal Reserve Bank, I realized community was so important to me. And coming back to Ramsey County, which is one of the most diverse counties in the state of Minnesota, and the innovation that has really happened in this county, and the belief and the power of community was what really drew me here. I was excited to get back to the community roots and to use my skills in human resources to be that bridge between the community, the residents, and the wonderful employees, over 4,000 employees that we have here in Ramsey County. And so I'm thankful. I consider it an honor. I consider it a privilege to be here. And I'm hoping that what I do and what my team does really does add value to the residents, to the people in this organization, to the community, and to the organizations and the wonderful employees that we serve. I'd like to now just talk a little bit about what my impressions have been over the past several months since I've been here. what has excited me was not only just the opportunity to be re-engaged in an organization whose values really embody the values that I believe and want to do and aspire to do every day. What has really excited me was the technology. I remember the interview that I had when I heard that the county had committed to Workday, and that excited me because I've been working in organizations where either they were in the process of looking at the technology or they were using that technology. And to hear that Ramsey County had made a dedicated commitment to that showed me that they were forward thinking, that they wanted efficiency, and they wanted to move this organization to another level. The other part that excited me was that there was a learning management system. Very few public sector employers have a learning management system that allows us to be much more agile, create opportunities to develop learning in a different way. And given the many, many buildings and the many different ways that Ramsey County works, to know that the county had developed and had made a commitment to a learning management system, as a person who believes in learning and development, that just really spoke to my heart. What surprised me, and this may sound very different as a surprise, but to know that you had taken the transaction and centralized it was a surprise. When I worked at the city of Minneapolis, which has comparable numbers of employees, we struggled for years to try to get our transaction piece centralized because there was no controls in place and there wasn't a consistent way of trying to get those transactions. And knowing that the Ramsey County had made that commitment to really centralize that transaction piece spoke to the reasons, one of the reasons why I came here. And it's really going to be important as we move toward Workday. So we are doing some process improvements, which you'll hear a little bit about later. But to know that you're one of the few organizations within the state that has centralized that function, that took a great deal of effort, a lot of commitment, and a lot of support. Having said all that, what concerned me as I peeled back the layers, if you will, was the turnover in leadership and human resources, which I'm not saying anything that none of you not know about. It didn't scare me, but it was very surprising. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that later. But one of the reasons why that when I think about I'm going to now talk a little bit about that because that leads into the look back of the HR function. When you look at the figures in terms of the HR turnover, it is dramatically different than the county leadership turnover. And you may think, well, okay, that's turnover. Well, for me, it represents more than just turnover. You know, HR, just like many functions within the organization that support the employees, the consistency of having leadership that's consistent really impacts our ability to build trust, to build stability, to move forward when you have that much turnover. And so I look at it more than just about the turnover. For me, it's what does the turnover represent? How can we begin to create stable leadership within human resources, not from a judgmental perspective, but from a systems perspective? So I'm gonna next go to the next slide. These are some of the impacts that happens when you've had significant turnover in human resources. I'm sure none of the things that are on here are surprises to any of you, but let me give you a couple of data points that I'd like for you to reflect on. In reading and looking at our statistics, workforce statistics, 82% of our workforce either represents Generation X or represents millennials. I was shocked, admittingly so, to know that was 82% of our employees. That's our workforce. I would have, in my pea brain, thought it was mostly baby boomers. But what that signifies is that with those groups of folk, they have different levels of expectation. They expect a consistent employee experience. They expect leadership. They expect opportunities to develop, and they expect accountability. Well, the question I pose to you is, if indeed 82% of our workforce represents Generation X and millennials, and we are, and I'm only talking about human resources, if we have inconsistent leadership, how can we move the dial? I'm not only just talking about today in 2026, I'm thinking of 2086. I'm thinking about the future workforce. I'm thinking about not just the people that are here today, but how are we going to build a foundation for the people that come after you? And so that's where my mind goes, is the importance of having consistent leadership in human resources, is because we also have to think about the future workforce. And they have different expectations than baby boomers. They are expecting leadership. They have opportunities to go places and work in different places. The other data point I want to emphasize, as Ramsey County is the 37th largest employer in the state of Minnesota. That is whether, it doesn't matter whether it's General Mills, it doesn't matter whether it's Hennepin County, it doesn't matter whether it's the Mayo Clinic. We are the 37th largest employer in the state of Minnesota. We are also a very complex organization. 3,000 of our employees are represented by unions. We have lots of rules, we have regulations, and we have figures. We have all these different things. And as a person like myself, who came from the city of Minneapolis, who has almost the same amount of people, it's a complex environment. I'm very well aware of what it means to be in a complex environment. And me being in a complex environment, I'm still learning. I've been here 8 years. So think about 8 years, 8 months. It's like 8 years. That was a joke. But the point I'm making is, when you've got that kind of inconsistency and you're on a learning curve, it is very challenging. And so for me, my goal is not to sit up and beat people up because we were having turnover. My goal is to create an environment where we're hiring the right leaders in human resources, we're investing in the right people, when we're getting people here that can really uplift and create the right infrastructure that ultimately supports the employees, that ultimately supports the residents in the community. And so when I begin to look at that, look at all that information, I thought there are things I just simply don't know. And so thanks to the leadership of County Manager Becker, she said, why don't you think about and why don't you consider bringing someone in to really help you think through what we need to do? Because I'm not here because I couldn't get another job. I'm here because I want to make this place better. That is my passion. That is my desire. That is my hope. And I'm also smart enough to know that I can't do it by myself. Because if I could do it by myself, then I wouldn't be here and I would have a big ego and I would not be telling the truth. So thanks to, I want to personally thank County Manager Becker for saying you need help. And I agree happily. So what I'm going to do now is I'm gonna, these are the things, and excuse me, I want to take a step back. So before introducing Michael, I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that we've already started doing within our organization. Number one, I felt it's very important to try to understand a little bit about this county's, Ramsey County. So I started with my own team. I met with every single person on my team, and I had some key questions that I asked. I met with the people, the leaders within the organization within Ramsey County, because I really wanted to try to develop a better understanding of what was going on in our organization. But then with the existing leaders that I had, I started saying, here's where we need to go. We want to have guiding principles. I always believe you have to have some sort of principles before you can move ahead. And so I said, okay, we're going to model what the county is saying. One of them is operational excellence, people first. We want to model accountability and partnership. We want to be a department that wants to grow and learn. We want to be one HR modeling it after one Ramsey County. And we want to begin to model agility. We can't just stay the same. We have to create ways and opportunities that we can learn and grow. And then with the leadership team and the people that are here, we started talking about what our purpose statement was and what our operating norms are. And we communicated that to our own team so that they understood where we were coming from. My number one goal, quite frankly, has been for the past few months also, is to really try to stabilize our function. Many of the people that you see right here, many of them have been in their positions 1 year or less. And I want to give them credit because here's this woman here who has a bunch of bold ideas and not once did they flinch, right? And I give them credit because they could have flinched. But I wanted to make sure that we get the right people, that we hire the right people. We've already made some hires. So for example, with the deputy director position, many of you know Kristen Schultz, who did an amazing job as the interim CHRO. She applied for and got the position in the newly recreated position of Total Rewards Deputy Director. We elevated the labor relations manager to a director position. And we were fortunate enough to hire Miranda Harrison, who is now our our division director. We have also posted, I'm very proud that we have posted for the other deputy HR position, which is the Director of Talent and Workforce Development. We had our first set of interviews this week, and we are going to be having our second round of interviews on Friday. So we're working to get those positions filled. We have a labor relations position that's filled, and we're looking to also recruit and hire for our learning and development manager position. So we're really working to build that bench, to strengthen that bench. And as we've talked about, we're trying to build the bench and we're trying to, buy the bench at the same time. Having said all that, as you all know, we had a lot of challenges. We've had Operation Surge. We've had a lot of the different things that have happened. Paid family medical leave, of which Jessica, who is one of our leave managers, has been leading. We have tried to pivot in those kinds of ways when we had to, because that's what we have to do. And so we have, those are just some of the complexities that we've been challenged and faced with. And then lastly, what we've also been doing during this time is we have worked with Michael, who will be talking a little bit about the assessment that we have done to really get a deeper dive in understanding what we needed to do, what our gaps were in services. We wanted to talk with all of our stakeholders to really try to figure out what will be the best roadmap needed to close the gaps in service and to position us to move forward. So now what I'd like to do is take a step back, introduce Michael, have him to talk a little bit about what he's been doing. And if there are any questions, I feel like I'm running here talking, but please, if you have any questions as we're having this conversation, please do not hesitate to ask any questions that you might have. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Patience. It's a pleasure to be here, pleasure to meet all of you. After 30 plus years helping organizations, typically large organizations. I spent most of my career inside big companies, Kimberly-Clark, Cisco Foods, other places like that. But in 2023, I retired from that work. And after long conversations with my wife, we decided we would move away from, we're both from Wisconsin originally, but we were in Texas at the time. And she said, I want to be in Minnesota. So we are in Eden Prairie. So we're just getting to know this state. We love being here. It's been 2.5 years. Wish we had gotten here sooner. But I'm also here because I've chosen, after being in the corporate world for all those years, I now want to spend time on the topics and the people and the issues that are most important to me: social justice issues, food insecurity issues, education issues. And I got to know a little bit of Ramsey County, and to what Patience has said, I love the fact that this is the most diverse county with some of the most complex needs in the state. That attracted me. Then I had the chance to begin to get to know County Manager Becker and Patience. And after meeting with these two folks, I was sold. This was a place if there's something that I can do to lend a little help and support, I want to be here. So I'm thrilled to have this opportunity to work with you and with you on this. So what I want to take you through today is a little bit of, just as Patience said, a deeper dive, almost a double click on what you just heard Patience talking about, which was what's been going on in the last 8 months. I'm going to go a bit deeper to say, why are some of these things going on today over the last 8 months? What has caused that? What are some of the findings and what are some of the big actions? A couple things I would say to keep in mind here as you listen to this. First, one idea is that this is significant change. This is transformation that we're talking about of a function in order to ensure that they are working in service of Ramsey County and that entire organization, and make sure that the function itself is fit for purpose to do that. But note that it is a process that's going to take years, not just days, weeks, or months. But the right things are already starting, and I'll try to share some of the highlights of that. Secondly, I would just ask you to keep in mind this question, maybe jot down some things as you're listening, because I'd love, honestly, to hear your reaction or questions back on this. One question is, based on what I'm about to share with you, what did it confirm or validate for you? Things you already knew, but aha, now you've got more data to support it. Or two, what surprised you or what just struck you? As I just share, I'm going to just share 6 key findings and some specific actions that either need to be taken or are already being taken by patients and routine. So to start with, I did talk with lots of folks across the organization, more than 80 folks, all of the DCMs, DC leaders, plus their leadership teams, plus most of the entire HR function to get a sense of what's been going on to bring us to this point. So the first finding, in a word, is establishing a compass for HR, the function. The finding is that, as you see it there, and as Patience has talked about, the significant amount of leadership turnover in the function has led to a number of different things that I'll talk about. But this lack of, or the turnover has led to a lack of executive direction, a lack of consistent direction there, uneven or shifting priorities from sub-HR function to sub-HR function, or just not having a common, clear, consistent direction for the function based on that shifting or just lack of a leadership and specifically an executive leadership direction. Couple unintended consequences. There's been, because of that transitional or the turnover in leadership, you have a lack of intentional or deliberate change. It sort of happens or doesn't happen, but it was not based on a plan. And another is the organization. You're talking, I will share more about this later, but it's an organization of folks who care deeply, but also are experiencing the frustration of what it's like to be in an organization where it doesn't have that level of consistent leadership and direction, and frustration and even skepticism. What I heard from many folks when I was gathering information, both within and outside HR, was a statement that went sort of like this. We've had consultants in the past. They've come in and they've asked good questions, and then they put a report together and nothing ever happens. So obviously we're going to make sure that that's not the case this time, but you get a sense of the skepticism from not having that clear plan and approach. So actions. You heard Patience mention this. The HRLT already has come together and has put together a very clear purpose statement for why they exist. And they're beginning to understand and build what is the expertise and the capability that we're going to need to have in the function in order to serve Ramsey County, because the function serves, it is in the service of Ramsey County. And you've heard about some of the positions that are already being posted and filled. That is to do that. If there's a key word or notion here in this first finding, it's consistency, stability, a reason to believe. Folks in HR want a reason to believe in the future.
Pause, Commissioner McMurtry, you have a question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In your research, as you were talking to leaders, did we get more of an understanding of the reasons behind the leadership turnover? Like, what were the reasons as you were peeling back the onion of looking at the significant turnover in HR? What did you find in regards to their reasoning behind leaving and in such short time? And on top of that, I'd add, were there any particular groups or categories of folks who really found it as a struggle being a part of this organization or being part of HR in particular?
I'll try to answer that and do it the appropriate process. So Chair Jevon Singh and Commissioner McMurtry, since I wasn't able to interview folks who had left or getting perceptions, what I heard was I think there is a desire to ensure that leaders in the function also have key support from the county manager and from the executive leadership of the county. That's going to be important going forward. And what I heard was when that happens, folks are more likely to stay. And when there's a misalignment, there's more likely to be turnover. From the broader organization, whether it was inside or outside HR, what I heard was not so much conversation on why it occurred, but just the desire to have consistent leadership going forward. I didn't hear common themes about why folks left. I only heard common themes about the importance of why we need someone who is going to be that stabilizing, consistent force going forward. Okay. All right. Thank you for the question. So the second finding, this in a word is going to be structure. And it's ensuring that the HR structure now and going into the future is one that is fit for purpose in service of Ramsey County. I use that phrase a lot as a reminder of why this function exists. It exists to support the county, which supports all the residents of Ramsey County. So the structure simply hasn't evolved as the county has evolved. You heard patients talking about the size and complexity of this organization. The HR function currently, at least up to now, hasn't matched that. And there's very interesting research that shows just the shelf life of organizations is also getting shorter and shorter and shorter. You know, a decade ago, an organization structure may have lasted 5 years, 10 years. But what organizations now see is that shelf life is going down to 3 years, 2 years, sometimes 1 year, because organizations, there's so much change being demanded of them. Well, the HR structure hasn't kept up with that. There not only is there lack of clear HR structure that supports the overall organization, but if you look at a level below the HR leadership team, those organizations below are also saying, what's our part? What are our clear roles and responsibilities? What's our decision rights? And how does that make sense, or how is it aligned with the HR leadership team? And how is that aligned with the overall priorities of Ramsey County? There has been a misalignment or a lack of alignment between the function and where the priorities are of Ramsey County. So that's an opportunity. The key actions, again, they're started now. I will say to patients' credit, there's a lot going on, but she's taking a look right now at, well, what is not only the right structure, but what's the right operating model? How do we want HR business partners to interact in the organization? Do we want them to be the front line or the hub of a hub and spoke kind of organization design where leaders across Ramsey County always know, if I want service, I know who to go to first. And that's where the HR business partner is going to help get total rewards or talent acquisition or learning or other groups involved. But there has to be some common understanding of how that works and how all those pieces fit together. So that's action that is just beginning now. And I'll say the other thing that is just beginning is getting clear on the priorities for 2026. To my point before, we won't fix all this immediately, but they're getting very clear on what we have to do month by month, year by year to get there. So that's finding 2. Finding 3, this is a little bit deeper dive on that notion of service delivery. So historically, I'll say within the last number of years, based on the information gathered from folks across the county, what they said was the service they get is very person dependent. If you get a great person, that person will take you through that process and smooth sailing. But because you've got inconsistency or lack of documented processes, you can get a different experience from one person to the other. And by the way, I didn't say this before, and I think it bears saying, if you know organizations, if you put relatively good players into a great system with documented process, etc., those folks are going to rise to the occasion, they're going to sail, and it's going to be a very strong organization. The same is also true. If you put really dedicated, committed, hardworking, smart individuals into a system where you don't have documented processes and consistent systems and clear decision rights, they're going to struggle. And it's not, it'd be very easy to say, well, then we just need to fix the people. It's too simple an answer to say, fix the people. We've got to fix the system in which those people work. And that's what this piece is also saying. The service delivery is critical. How we define that going forward will help people to be successful and to actually live up to their skills, their capabilities, their experiences in this system. I'll just mention one example here of a service delivery issue, and I'm going to get into it in the next slide as well. But here's how it shows up. One example that came up again and again from people across the county was the talent acquisition process. And one, to leaders in the county, it can feel like it takes too long, or that it's cumbersome, or that they just don't understand it. And there's already been work done there, and I think there's more work to go to make sure that the process is very clear and documented, and leaders know exactly what they need to do in that process. So that's one example of just being really clear with what's the role of the HR business partner, what's the role of the talent acquisition partner, etc. Communication and trust. This, in a word, is HR has an opportunity to be the bridge here. Both within and outside of HR, what I've heard in gathering information was that the leaders of around the county, they want more interaction, even more partnership, and more communication from HR. It is not that HR has deliberately not been communicating or anything else. They're just saying, I looked at this organization to be a great partner for us, so help us communicate even more, because that will enable us to be supporters and partners of yours, and it will help to build trust. So the lack of communication, interestingly, not surprisingly maybe, often leads to a lack of trust. So the more communication there is, the more trust there will be over time. And that's an inside-out process where, if you want to have a trusting relationship, you need to be trustworthy. I need to be trustworthy first, and then we can build that trust. And I think HR is becoming that trustworthy system and team of people that's ready to be the bridge for the future. Yes, I mean, the bridge building's already done. The work on the HR purpose, that's been done. The amount of communication I'm seeing and hearing from patients and from her team out to the organization, that is increasing. This notion of transparency is increasing. Providing regular updates to this board, et cetera. Those are all examples of the changes coming from within HR and across the county. And there's a strong desire to be that bridge that is needed. And work processes. So this notion is that there simply in the past has not been a clear purpose, strategy, organization structure for HR, and that has meant significant gaps in core processes. I mentioned talent acquisition, onboarding, learning and development, et cetera. And again, you got strong people trying to do the right thing, but getting those processes to be equally strong, documented processes. So there's a lot of work that has been started here as well, significant work going on. There's modernizing of processes that's going on, looking at ways to either simplify, make more efficient, make more consistent to ensure that they're operationally excellent processes across HR. The Workday implementation is also going to enable that, and it's going to force a look at current processes to make sure that they're going to work within Workday going forward. And there's some prioritization also going on right now for among the number of core processes, things like performance management, leadership capability, succession, leadership development. All of these are going to be keys to the future.
I have a couple of questions, Commissioner Moran and then Commissioner Georgie.
So, well, thank you, Patience. I love that name, Patience, because we need that patience, right? We all need it.
We all do.
We all need it.
I agree.
And so I think this is like core right here, this is talent processes and systems that need to be in place. Because there's been so much inconsistency within the workforce, within staff. My observation, I haven't been here that long, but it's clear that there has not always been clear directions for folks, whether it's in HR. You know, when I first came in, there was a new HR director. She last like, you know, if this is a toxic environment, it's gonna reap toxicity. And we was able to, quite frankly, see that and feel it and hear it. And so, yes, this is all great and you're working on it. So does that mean it starts with HR, then moves out? Or are you putting processes and procedures in place so to be consistent? So that it's not relying on this one good social worker that is responding, but everyone knows that protocol and how to show up and respond into whatever it is that needs to be done. Are you putting those type of procedures in place?
Thank you very much, Chair Jefferson, Commissioner Moran. You are exactly, that's what we want. I mean, it is gonna take a while, but I liken it, and I was sharing this earlier with Michael, is when I go to Ulta to get all my makeup needs met, right? And so if I go, I'm from Oklahoma. If I go to Ulta in Oklahoma, it's gonna look the same as if I go to Maple Grove. And that's what I love, because no matter where I go, I know where I can get my Fenty makeup or my MAC makeup. You know, those are my two brands. And I know exactly where I need to go to get those. And so that's where we wanna go. And so that's why I'm so glad you asked the question. My goal is that we want a consistent employee experience, no matter who it is. And so those are the kinds of things that we're actually working on with my team. We're going to be bringing in some additional support. Ultimately, we want everybody to have a consistent experience. Even if you work in DCM, the Deers area, or if you work in DCM Francois area, the experience should be the same, even though the business is different. And so that's exactly what we are currently working on in response to that. Yes.
Well, I really appreciate protocol procedures.
Right,
Is
exactly.
Hugely important.
It is.
You know, so people to know expectations and show up in a way that's going to grow Ramsey County. And people can see, you know, being here for 20 years without being mad and angry and tired.
Right.
Right. And so, yeah.
It's the little things.
One thing to add to that, which I've heard patients say multiple times, as HR is thinking about process designs or simplification, they're not one, to answer your question, it is sort of inside out that the function has responsibility and expertise to do that. But two, patients have said often, it's a collaborative process. So how do we engage the right players from across the organization to help us in that process so that it's going to make sense for the folks who actually use those processes?
And the other piece I want to add to is that's where the continuous improvement comes in as well. Because I know as an HR professional, it is so easy for us to have our feelings on our shoulders because, you know, but we have to be open to hear what we're doing right and what we need to do to improve. Likewise, the other way around with the departments is that we can't change what has happened in the past. But what my desire is that we want to be able to go to a department and say what worked and what didn't work. Because if I'm so defensive, and I can't speak to what used to happen here because I wasn't here. But if I'm so defensive that I won't hear what the kernel of wisdom that you may have and how we can do something different, how are we going to improve? Right. And that begins with me. I mean, and what I'm saying to my team is if there are things that I need to do differently, I have to walk the talk. I have to be open to hear what I should be doing differently. So it really starts with me and it starts with my team. That's the kind of, that's how you build trust with people because you don't have all the answers to everything. And so I'm not saying we're there because I also want to manage expectations, but we're not there yet. But that's my desire is that we can work together to improve it together.
You said a key word, which is trust.
Yes.
Our staff do not trust.
Right,
Folks don't feel that they can't express themselves and be honest,
that's right.
right? And
Agreed,
That's right.
absolutely.
we have a good time thing.
Commissioner Pritchett?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kind of to build off of this conversation, and I love this piece of really looking at how to improve and modernize the processes. Does that include like different tactics that we may not have used in the past that we may want to implement? One example I'm thinking through, and I brought this up before, of this idea of having some type of an annual survey that employees get to fill out anonymously for us to really gauge of like what's working and what's not, where areas we can improve, and that we can in real time maybe make those adjustments and those improvements. And I think it leads into a number of the other areas that you mentioned on how we can build trust and communication and clarity. And we can do these things in more real time before it gets out of hand. So can you speak to some of the tactics that we may be currently utilizing or that we're thinking of introducing as we're figuring out ways to modernize and improve the overall processes under this section?
Chair Jemison and Commissioner McNamee. Am I saying that right? Did I say it right?
You got it.
So some of the things that we're even doing now, these are small, but we have, and I'm going to speak to a specific department. We now have ongoing meetings, for example, with the sheriff's department involving, the DCM and these people, Kristen, I'm looking at Kristen, even though she knows I'm not looking at her, and Dave and Miranda. We now have monthly meetings because that was a huge trust issue, quite frankly, for HR. And so we are meeting with them is it every month, people? Yeah. About every month. And it was kind of rough at the beginning, I must admit. But you know what? You got to start somewhere. And so now we're getting to a point where it's not an engagement survey. I've done engagement surveys in 3 other organizations, and I also know the kind of work that you have to do to get you to that point. So that is on the horizon. But to be able to start with them and to hear what their concerns are and to listen, and now we're at least talking to each other and finding out what didn't work and what does work, et cetera. That's an example. Another example is what we're doing with the attorney's office, very similar process. I have standing meetings with each DCM, and so these are the kinds of things that we're attempting to do. Miranda's working on having ongoing meetings in addition with County Manager Becker with our labor partners. These are the kinds of things. When employees contact me, I contact them back. I've had people even reach out to me on LinkedIn. I always get back to them because it's the little things that you do like that begin to build that trust. And it's been my experience when people see that you're consistent, that is the best way to build trust. Yes. Or newsflash, if you make a mistake, own it. Right? And so Kristen and I had a conversation yesterday about a particular department. She said, Patience, I think we need to apologize. I said, sign me up. Am I telling the truth, Kristen?
Yes.
Yes. Because my whole thing is, it's those things those little bitty things that you do, that is what creates momentum and change. It's not huge, but it's in the right direction.
Commissioner Jean? Thank you. I'm glad to see that talent acquisition and the performance management processes are going to be a priority this year. May you speak a little bit more about that or what that looks like operationally across the county?
Chair Jemison and Commissioner Shaw. So we're going to start, before we move into the performance management piece, it is very important that we move into the development piece and training, because I have a concern that if we immediately move to performance management and we have not begun to help managers and leaders understand what it means to set expectations, we're setting everybody up to fail. So one of the things that we're doing as an initial step is we're going to do what we call micro learnings. And these are the kinds of things that are compliance related. And we've had a meeting with our attorneys, compliance, who am I missing? Labor,
Finance?
Thank you, and finance. And so we're starting with those micro learnings, and one of our staff over here, Arzu, we met with them last week to do some what we call micro learnings. The other thing that we're doing, which I'm extremely excited about, is I have had a relationship with Hennepin County for years, even when I was at the city of Minneapolis. And they have a wonderful learning that I want to delve into this specifically for new managers, new leaders. And so we met, Arzu and one of our other staff met. I contacted my colleague. We meet, just so you know, I meet with the CHRO of Hennepin County every month. We have a standing meeting. And so I set up a meeting because I knew that they had a really good learning that they do for new managers. And so we set up the meeting last week. And then when I saw the outline, I was blown away because it really is getting at our new managers and what we need to do to help orient them to what we need to do. So then I said, yeah, we want that. So we have a meeting next week to talk about that. Those are just some specific examples. County Manager Becker and I have also talked about some of the other kinds of things which we're calling leadership essentials. So all of these are things that we're actually putting in our plan because we want to begin to start helping our leaders understand what it means to set expectations with people. You know, I've heard leaders tell me this personally. I joined Ramsey County and I don't know how to set expectations with people. Right. And so then they're open for that. And I've said this in public. That is HR's responsibility. I cannot get upset with you. I had a leader tell me this. I don't even know how, when I first joined, I wasn't even sure how we're supposed to do our timesheets, but then I got my hand slapped. I don't like that. That hurts my heart because it's just like if I was a child and you're trying to tell me to walk, and then I don't even give you the tools to teach you to walk. And oh, by the way, I'm going to hit you with a spoon. So these are some of the things that you'll see in our strategies. I hope this is answering your question. We want to do that as a first step. And then we are going to be coming back in June talking about our TARP initiative. So some of that will be under TARP. And then the ultimate goal is then to roll out more about the performance management kinds of pieces. But I think we have to get people the tools that they need so that they understand. And then the next step will be the performance management.
No, absolutely. This is really helpful for me to understand how we're going to operationalize it since these are, they're ongoing themes. So what you have presented, Michael, it's nothing new. Like,
right.
It's something that we've been hearing again and again consistently. It's just a matter of needing the leadership, right? Stable leadership to execute against that plan. And the other one that I wanted to just flag for you, Patients Director Ferguson, is about, the last time that we received a report from HR, this was, before your time, of course, but there were just some concerning things about just the turnover that was happening at the county level, where we were seeing more turnover among employees who identified as people of color. So that was just really important for me to really understand and also say that, is there something going on, with either our managers and or are we not doing well with setting our own expectations about the type of skill sets that we need for those positions? So those are things that I wanted to raise here and also share that, if they're cultural, if it's a workplace culture type that needs fixing and or if it's the talented acquisition piece that needs fixing.
I agree with everything that, I didn't go to the protocol. Okay, I forgot. I cannot wait until we meet in June because I am a data geek and my whole thing and our team, we have set the expectation that it's data that drives decisions. And one of the areas that I'm looking at is not only turnover, but I'm also looking at, quite frankly, our probation piece. That is fascinating to me, is looking at the data related to how many people are not passing probation. And so then I ask myself, why? Mm-hmm. So now I'm trying to peel and our data analysts, Dave and Kristen, all know that I'm very passionate about this because I've got to ask, I don't have the answer yet. Mm-hmm. But what I am saying is I need to dig deeper.
Yes.
Because the questions that you're asking are the same questions I'm asking myself. Number one, is it because I'm not gonna say it's this, because I
Right.
don't know. But are we hiring the right people? I don't know. Are we managing right? I have no clue. But those are the questions that I'm asking, because I'm looking at the whole picture in terms of, what is it? Do we need to do something different? But I don't know. And so, and it was interesting because when I was talking to Colleen, who is our HR data analyst, and I said, I want you to I want you to pull back this data for 3 years. And so we're on a Teams call, and me and them, we looked at each other when we saw this, and I said, is this statistically significant?
Mhm.
They said, yes. I said, oh my goodness. And so then we started going on this journey together. So I don't know the answer, but that's one of the questions that I'm asking myself, because it's very easy just to immediately say, is it this?
Right.
Yep.
I say, no, wait, let's look and let's see. Is it a talent acquisition? Do we have the right job descriptions, right? We may or we may not. Are we leading people? Are we managing people? And we all know, particularly when you represent diverse communities, I'm one of those people that used to be told I was angry. And I'm not angry. I'm just demonstrative, right? But those are the kinds of things that that we need to look at. And that's where we are saying as a team, we want to make data informed decisions, but we don't want to make an assumption. So in answer to this, I'm giving you a long answer to your question. We want to look at all those kinds of things to see what the data is telling us.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Great.
So the last slide that I've got is, up to now, I've shared findings which share all the things that need to be fixed, that aren't working well, et cetera. And I want to leave you with this as well, which ties back to an earlier message about the people in the system. There was a strong finding that when I talked with leaders across Ramsey County and asked them what they thought about the individuals that they were working with from HR, the comments were often very positive. So it was interesting, in the very same meeting where they would say, boy, this process just isn't working for me, or it's not documented, I don't understand my roles. And I'd say, so what's it like to work with the key person that you're working with? That person's amazing, let me tell you. If I can stick with this person through the entire talent acquisition process, I know it's going to be a terrific process. Love that person. So yeah, I heard words like the people are caring, they're mission driven, they're dedicated. The person I work with is the best. There's this enthusiasm for the people. So I want to make sure that you're hearing that multiple times from me, that there's a strength that we can build on here. I've been in organizations where you not only have to fix all of the systems, but you also have to make a lot of changes to the talent. And this is a case where I think the initial focus needs to be on the system itself, on the processes within the system, on having a clear structure and decision rights, et cetera. And then let's see about giving everyone in HR an opportunity to rise to that occasion. Let's build on the strengths that already exist. We know there's total reward strengths. We know that there's talent acquisition strengths. We know that there's strengths with learning and people development and organization development. How do we leverage those strengths? That's got to be a focus. So I want you to take that message away. With all of that said, I'd love to go back to my initial question and just get some quick reactions from you, either from all that you've heard, what did this validate for you or confirm? Or what surprised you or struck you by what you heard? I'm genuinely curious.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is so exciting and affirming. I mean, it is what we've been hearing, and I've been here for 13 years now. And I think from day one, I feel like our HR department has been in transition. I've heard similar. The people there are really hardworking and passionate, but the format, what the system itself is, I appreciate how you described it. I wouldn't have been able to articulate it. But we know there's good people in that department, obviously.
Yeah.
And so to put to articulate how you have done it, it gives me great hope. Right, and we have to have measured expectations, because of course, this isn't gonna happen overnight, we have work to do
Right,
in this, and
yes.
I'm just appreciating that we're naming it, and thank you, Director Ferguson for being, for being open to all of this, and for sure, Mr. Fisher, for being here to do this kind of analysis. And, I mean, I think we've all heard from different people. I just heard last week from an employee who just had a unfortunate experience with HR, and I said, I'm so sorry. I hate to hear that. And I'm sure, other people are gonna hate to hear it. And so I know we have work to do, and we're gonna keep working on it. But I just appreciate, it resonates with how I have felt, that there really is systemic work here that needs to be done. I really appreciated the words that you're using to describe how dedicated our people are that are in that area, but how we just need some structure, some consistency, some, just a dedication to, how we're really doing this work, and trust, of course. So, thank you.
Thank you.
So let me open up by saying that I do think that we have some of the best employees who come here because they have purpose and they want to be helpful, they want to serve, and they want to work in Ramsey County. But with that, you have confirmed and validated some of the issues and the problems. Or what has been going on. And for me, the question would be is, I always try to wonder, is HR the problem? Has it been the county manager problem? Has it been like the directors or the DCMs? Where's the problem? Who is the problem? And where have we failed to not have consistencies and protocols and processes and structures in place? Right? Where have we failed to do that? I'll give you an example that I think I've talked to like Lean Becker about, which is a lot of them, but I'm gonna focus on like I lost my thought on this. On a process for like, there's been like huge tension with like community.
Okay.
In Ramsey County, when we say we want to work in partnership with them, and we want to validate them, and we want to make sure they are getting paid, right? It's not a whole lot that they're getting paid, but it takes 3, 4, 5 months for that to happen, right? And maybe I'm exaggerating, but it takes a while. Let's go for 3 months at least. And my question is that we partner with community, and we'll send them a document to fill out, and usually they fill it out and something is wrong. So they send it back. It goes to the bottom or something has happened and it's like another 2 or 3 months. And I'm like, why is it that way? What is the process? And so in my mind, I'm like, and someone would say, well, community just don't understand. I'm like, yes, they do. And they can. If you sit down with whoever you partner with and say, this is the process. This is the document you're going to fill out. This is the way we do it here in Ramsey County. And if every staff person in Ramsey County have that same process and procedure, it's a protocol. It is just the way we do the work. Instead, no training, no communication. We fill out a document and now we're waiting and they're waiting. And then they say, we don't trust government. We don't trust Ramsey County. Ramsey County is never timed. Well, we don't want to be a part of that, right? We don't want to hear that coming from Ramsey County. I don't want to be a commissioner that this is what the feedback that I'm getting often, right? And so, to have the process up front that we are, every person who works for Ramsey County, if you work with the community, this is the process.
Yes.
County manager Becker.
Right.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Commissioner, excuse me.
1 second. No. Excuse me. And so, is that an HR? Is HR leading that? Do HR know that is their role? Or is the county manager saying, this is my role, and she has to do all the follow-up and the backup to figure out what, you know, what is that protocol and procedure? So should this have been HR who was leading this? Or should it have been another DCM leading on processes as simple as that? That one specific
Right.
process that I just shared.
I can take this, so at least start. You and I have talked a lot about things like this. While HR is in the operations service team, what you're talking about is actually in the finance department. And so that wouldn't be Patience's
So it's not
responsibility.
HR, it's
No, so
finance.
when soon, we're gonna have a lunch and learn with procurement. And we'll put a pin in that conversation and we can follow up on that. But I think similarly, I think what Patience is talking about though is in all things where sometimes we have points of failure or struggle, whether it's any part of the county, setting those expectations. I mean, there is a role in HR helping us run our business better. And so
yeah.
that's where there is a connection,
Right.
not necessarily the direct procurement work that you're
So
talking
that's
about.
finance and
Yeah,
finance
it's fine.
knows that now.
They do. They definitely do. We talked a lot about it. So that helps.
Could I just have
Anything else?
Could I have one more comment to answer your question, because you also asked about this larger ecosystem, and here's a prediction of what's coming down the road. What I did here during the information gathering often was without common processes and structures. Here's the other thing that DCMs do. They go answer shopping. If I don't like the answer that this particular HR person has given me, I'm gonna go somewhere else and see if I can get a better answer, one that's more to my liking. So one of the things that's going to happen down the road, HR is gonna get more common processes for a more consistent employee experience. And then the DCMs are gonna go, oh, wait a minute, but I don't like that answer. But that's the answer. And we're gonna need County Manager Becker's help and the Commissioner's help to say, but this is what you asked for. This is the right thing for the county, and we need your help and support to move in this direction. You're gonna get some noise. If we do this work right, you're gonna get some noise, and you're gonna have to say, this is the right thing. We
Right.
need your support.
That's right.
Yeah, Commissioner Moran, I have to say, I appreciate your line of questioning, and I'll add to our sense of responsibility as leadership to say, you know, when we were at the list of people as to where improvements need to be made, I'm hearing that we need to include ourselves in that list too, to make sure there's a consistent leadership
Yes.
from this space as well. Commissioner McMurtry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'll figure out the best way to ask this, because as we have had this conversation and hearing about the work and the research that's been done when it comes to how we're showing up, how we're engaging our employees. It also has me thinking about kind of the other side of this coin as well of, you know, I think for us as a board, for us as an organization, we are also in the midst of significant change of you know, under the leadership of County Manager Becker. There are many aspects and procedures and processes that folks who have been here for 20, 30, 40 years that we may be changing. So how do you make that balance of, you know, making sure we're keeping engaged with our folks, with our staff, while also trying to, I don't know, drill home the idea of like, there are gonna be we are gonna have to improve, there's some changes that we're gonna have to make, and dealing with the fact that folks may not want to be on board with that change. That was a great meandering way of, but hopefully, yeah.
Well, I will say this, because that's not uncommon in any organization. And so, for example, and I'll just use my department. So I've been holding off even communicating to our department until I met with you. So Tuesday, we have our all staff meeting, and we'll be doing a much more briefer version of what we've done today with our employees in human resources. That's one step. Then I've also said to my leaders, okay, that's only phase one. Phase two is I'm going to individually go to each one of your teams, and we're going to have another conversation. And we have put together a couple of pieces. One piece is to operationalize this and talk about it from, it's just a one pager that I'm engaging with this team on. It says, here we are, and this is where we're going. And then we also are doing another one that shows what is an individual contributor, what is a supervisor, what is a manager. I want everybody to understand their roles in this game. And then we're gonna go to each each division, each leadership team, and we're gonna have a much more intimate conversation. Cause, resistance doesn't intimidate me at all. But if you're in an intimate setting, I would prefer for you, and we are in, quite frankly, the Midwest culture sometimes isn't forthcoming. I get that. But I'm hoping that because I have been meeting with people, I've been engaging with people, I want to hear what they have to say. And then there will come, and my team, and you'll see this later on, we have come up with our 4 pillars, and each one of our team is coming up with their goals under that pillar, and they're also coming up with expectations under that. And so then after we have explained and communicated with everyone, we've let you know where we're going. Our team, as we speak, are coming up with expectations. Then they go to their teams, and then we say, these are the expectations, and we manage accordingly. But it's not gonna be because you didn't know. We want you to know. That's why I'm taking the extra step of, I wanna go, even if you have a team of 5. We're gonna take this show on the road, even before we start talking externally. I don't want my team to, and I sent the link. I sent the link to my team, our entire department, and said, we're on Zoom. I want you to hear this. We have nothing to hide. But I also know that even with all that, it's normal for people to be resistant. I mean, it is. At the same time, that's where the consistency comes in, because we still have as we said earlier, my number one obligation was to do all of our obligation in HR. It's to do what's in the best interest of Ramsey County. It really is. That is our pulse. That is our heart. That is our heartbeat. And if we ever lose sight of doing what's in the best interest of Ramsey County, we risk reputation and we risk legal risk. And so that's why we're taking this intentional step. If someone tells me that they're scared, let's have a conversation about it. What I'm not gonna do is be defensive, and I don't want my team to be defensive, right? I want to come from a position of, why are we doing this in the first place? Our county manager has said it's about operational excellence. That's not negotiable. I'm not gonna go against that. You all have said operational excellence. And so part of our goal is to educate and help people understand the why, right? And then if you are still resistant, we still have to manage your performance at the end of the day.
Have you seen that as a factor for existing leaders in your department, of potential resistance being a factor of them, hindering the ability to do their jobs, or making them feel as if maybe is this a place for me? Kind of going back to the conversation around the turnover. Have you had any conversations with folks around potential resistance as a factor that's leading to that turnover?
Well, we've had one conversation. Remember the conversation we had about a week ago with our team? And one of the things we talked about is we're moving our strategic priorities. What would be some pieces? I mean, so that's where we are as a team. And actually Michael has led a discussion around that. So I personally have not witnessed that, but we're at least having the conversation as a leadership team to say what could be some of the downsides, because we just got to prepare. I can't say that I personally have witnessed that, but we're trying to at least prepare. And that's why I think it's so important to have the individual conversations and to be prepared that there will. I've never been in an organization where there hasn't been any resistance. That's just the cost of doing business. I'm not going to get upset or intimidated by it, but knowing that that is just human nature, it's to be expected.
So we've got a few more slides left and about 10 more minutes for formal presentation. So I feel like hold off questions until the end.
Okay. So, which one is this one?
Right. Yep.
Okay. So, just from a framework perspective, we kind of talked a little bit about this in terms of being more proactive. So I'm going to move ahead on this. And these are the drivers that the team and I have worked on. This is something we felt very strongly we wanted to put in place as a team. We also wanted to talk about what our drivers are, what are the things that we are making a commitment as a leadership team about operational excellence, future ready, data-informed decision-making, alignment and intentionality, fiscal stewardship, and also I can't even read. I gotta put my glasses on. Thank you very much. And risk mitigation. So anyway, but I want to just say I am so proud of my team because this did not come from a book. This slide was done specifically by the team that you see behind you. They came up with this. We did this as a team. And this is what our North Star is. And I'm very proud of them coming up with this. And we wrestled with this. I mean, to the point where we were picking names of, is this right or is this right? Because we wanted to do right by creating the foundation of how we were going to do our planning as a team. And then what you see in front of you are our strategic priorities for 2026. And each one of these priorities, the team behind me are coming up, they're working on it even as we speak. Their goals have to be in these areas. And so they're working on their goals. They're coming up with what their metrics are going to be related to that. And then we are working, they've actually had conversations with Michael so that we can be consistent, because this is where the beginning of the consistency comes in. So they are actually putting their plans together, and then they will be socializing the plans as we finish up this work with specific timelines to their respective teams. Then the next piece of this, the next step of this is that these are the things that are already on our roadmap that we will be communicating to the rest of our teams in terms of the things that we need to get done between now and the end of the year. And then, as you see at the bottom, Project North Star is our workday implementation. So while we're doing all of the things that you see in front of you, many of us are also involved as subject matter experts in the workday work. And so we still are doing that in the midst of all the other things that we're doing. And so if you look at the last slide, this is what a preview of what's next. So we have some upcoming workshops that we will be engaging with you in June. We're also going to be having a total rewards update in the fall. Miranda is also going to be preparing a session with you all related to labor relations. As we've mentioned earlier, we are going to be lifting up a series of people leader essential learning sessions. And then if that's not enough, we're also working to strengthen our employee resource group by putting together guidelines, executive sponsor briefings. Also our employee achievement awards, we're refining that. And then the budget pressure collaboration that we've been working as leaders with County Manager Becker and Chief Operating Officer Alex Nixon. So I think that that's all we have at this point from a formal presentation that kind of went into an informal.
Any final questions? Commissioner
Thank you.
McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and just thank you so much for this. It's very exciting. Can hardly wait for our next workshops to go. So just maybe this is for our county manager and for all of us, as we have been in transition ever since I've been here, which is a good thing, continuous improvement, it's like, how do we make our county the best that we can? We redesign our county service teams, we keep doing that. It's all great. And I think, at one point we had, every department had a different mission statement, and then we said, well, let's have one mission statement for all of Ramsey County. And so we have one, but I do believe that our departments have individual ones as well.
No,
Okay.
they really don't.
Okay, so
So
what
it's
this one,
probably a different
yeah.
word than mission.
Yeah.
But
so-
it might have just been
Yeah.
we need to catch that.
okay,
So,
so I
yep.
would just say that that's sort of where we
Yeah.
really wanted everyone
Yeah,
on
we
the
had
same
some
page.
hygiene to clean up that. around the
Yeah,
county,
okay, so just
yeah.
curious how we thought
Yeah.
about that,
Yeah.
but thank you
Yeah.
for that.
It
So-
can be like a guiding statement.
Yeah,
This is
I
more
think you,
leaders
exactly,
and not to
yeah.
be shared externally.
yeah, I mean, because we really want
No.
We
the
have-
county to be on the same page, as you
Yes,
can imagine.
Absolutely.
And I think you're
Yes.
right, to have guiding
Yeah.
ideas for your own
Yes.
area, and I think just how we talk about that is
Yes,
great.
good point.
And then
Excellent.
the other, just because I had previously mentioned a situation where I'd heard from an employee who didn't feel, quite
Mhm.
supported. In my mind, HR, human resources, is really about helping helping our staff feel supported. And so am I thinking of that right? Like you really are there to advocate for and with staff under the guidelines of what we have to do. You're not gonna be able to do everything that everybody wants, because you're gonna have some consistency. We're gonna have guidelines. We're gonna have things that you can do, but generally when people call HR, they should feel some love and support. Right?
Generally,
Would you say, am I
yes.
thinking of it
You're
correctly?
thinking of it correctly.
I just want to make sure I have the right
Mhm.
expectations here,
Yes.
because I will just say that I don't feel that that's been the case as much as I would like to have seen it. And I've already mentioned why, it's been a lot of transition and people have been inconsistent in their responses and getting responses and things. So good. So I'm
Absolutely.
so
Yes.
grateful to hear that. So for everyone listening, I mean, this is exactly what we do want HR to be.
We want
is
the
a-
human in the human.
Yeah,
resources.
right.
Right.
So I appreciate that. I just wanted to make sure I was on the right page for
Yes,
hearing that, because this is what I'm reassuring people who call me to say, no, you should feel supported. It may not be do everything you want. There may be reasons why, but you should at least feel some advocacy and support there.
Yeah.
Yes. And I also would also speak to our labor partners, because I don't want,
Yeah.
we have our labor partners. Miranda's here is our labor our director, and that's another avenue as well. So I don't want to negate that,
Right.
and say that as well, depending upon the particular individual.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I just wanted to.
Madam Chair, I would just say that I think, there's a lot of layers, but I think one of the biggest things is we want our people supporters of HR to really do the people work. And I do think
Yes.
that under the iceberg of the root cause of a lot of angst is some operational
Yeah,
excellence work
yeah.
that we have to keep doing.
For
And,
sure.
you've seen the emails about calculating underpayments, overpayments, like some of that like real tedious work that just grinds and is sort of demoralizing for the employee and for HR. It just feels like you can't ever dig out of some of those holes. So we really have to, I think the ERP will help somewhat, but it's not the end all be all. We actually need to really think through like how we, do things differently. Like I'll give you one example. I haven't even talked to patients about this, but for the employees that get performance pay, you have to do your 1 year and then you get your review. Then you get your review and then there has to be a process. Well, if they get late doing their review, then like somebody who has to calculate their new pay, we're already starting even on something positive with a whole bunch of extra work for some fiscal and HR staff to sort of
Right.
dig out under. Then while they're doing all that, the person isn't really happy because they're waiting for the performance pay. So like it's kind of a lose-lose on something that even though is very positive. So how do we like reset the process with expectations of when you have to do it by?
Yeah.
So that we
Yes.
are not only honoring the person, but eliminating as much extra work as possible. So that means the supervisor, the manager needs to get that done more timely.
Yes.
Maybe we're actually reviewing in the third quarter of the year. So that I would feel comfortable with that if it meant we had it, it's just all those things. Like
Yeah.
that's one little example, but something that can be fairly positive ends up being a complete sort of bee's nest of work for people, and then people walk away with a bad feeling. So
Right.
Michael, I think these are the kind of things
Yeah.
you've heard.
For sure.
That's an example,
For sure.
but and our labor partners, like they were besides themselves on the underpayment
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, and I don't blame them, but we had to manually calculate in this team. Many of the people worked, in finance, like they worked, I don't know, Kristen, like hours, nights, weekends to calculate it. I mean, one calculation could take like 40 hours for somebody. I mean, we have to find another, we talk about human service modernization, but we have a whole bunch of stuff here too, so
Yeah.
it's really a problem, so.
One other thing I'll just add, we didn't get into this much today, but another thing that patients and our team are working on are basic service level agreements on certain kinds of tasks. If I'm in the county organization and I know that the HR organization's promised to get back to me within 48 hours, or whatever that amount of time is, and that happens, that builds confidence and trust.
Yep.
Yes, we need to modernize processes, but I think there are some small
Yes.
tasks that could mean big wins.
Yeah.
Well, great.
Yeah.
So just to kind of sum up our conversation today, just the need to create greater stability in HR leadership, but change will take time. The structure needs to evolve to match the organizational changes. This includes greater alignment of functions and operations. Service delivery is critical and we need to have consistent service standards. HR has the potential to create increased communication and trust and transparencies. We need to fill gaps in core HR processes and systems, and implementation of Workday will help. We want to have consistent employee experience across the entire enterprise. And the good news that I hope that is loud and clear to all of our team at Ramsey County is that we have strong people and that we're working to improve our systems, and there's more to come.
Yes.
Before we leave, I just want to recognize that today has been a day of doing, kind of the mundane everyday work of county work. As exciting as hearing about it is, this is a basic core HR function kind of introductory conversation. I know that in the back of many of our minds are the words that have come from leadership in Washington. Words like a whole civilization will die tonight. This puts everybody on edge. It puts us all in a precarious position. I know I've been checking in with County Manager Becker. She's been checking in with leadership, knowing that there are things that are going on behind the scenes to track what's happening in our community when leadership puts us all in a precarious place. And so I just want to thank everybody for your professionalism to continue to do the important work at hand while these other big things are going on. It seems to be the way that we have to function every day since we've started in these roles over a year ago. And some of you have been here longer than that too. And I just want to thank everybody for continuing to do the work at hand while bigger things are afoot.
Yes.
Mm.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Good job.
I love it.
We are adjourned.